2021 was a big year for climbing. You had the first ever Olympics, a couple of significant downgrades, and a slew of young talent bursting onto the scene. At the same time, some veterans of the sport put up some insanely hard ascents, cementing that they're not going anywhere and the next generation might have to wait a little longer for it to be their turn. With all the confusion that was the combined formatting, a messy podium for the men's Olympics, and not as much outdoor climbing as we usually see, it was a little hard to judge climbers against each other, so that's exactly what I'm going to try to do. Hey guys, I'm Marcus from Ascensionism, and today we're going to be breaking down my top 10 list of the best climbers in the world in 2022. This is the video for the top 10 men. If you want to see the top 10 women, you can check it out via the link in my bio. Now, as much as I can, I've tried to balance past resumes with performance in 2021, and I've tried to compare different styles against each other as much as possible. If you disagree with anyone on this list, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. So, with that being said, let's kick things off with number 10, Alberto Ginés López. Now, depending on your view of the Olympics, this is either going to seem way too high or way too low for the Spanish youngster. On one hand, he's the defending gold medalist and an incredibly good lead climber to boot. On the other, he's never actually won a World Cup in the IFSC, and his outdoor resume isn't that great. With all that being said, I think Ginés López is correctly placed here. He had a lifetime performance at the Olympics, and the fact of the matter is that he's an incredibly strong lead climber and a really skilled all-around competitor. He doesn't have the rap sheet to start breaking into the top 5 yet, but Alberto Ginés López should be on everyone's radar heading into 2022. At number 9, we have James Pearson. A child phenom who had to go into hiding for a few years to escape the British gritstone scene, Pearson is back and crushing some of the scariest routes in the world. He ticked Harder Faster, an incredibly difficult E9, right at the end of 2020, and he finished off 2021 with an ascent of Tribe, which many say could be the hardest trad route in the world. Pearson didn't grade it, but it's rumored to go somewhere around 14D or maybe even 515X. Now, it's hard to imagine a climber being more different from Ginés López, and this is really what I meant by saying this list is kind of hard to do, but Pearson has picked up where he left off with some of the most impressive trad ascents in the world. Number 8 is Bosi. This is a bit of an example where I'm judging potential and placing a lot of weight on 2021. For a few months, Bosi looked to be an absolute phenom. He had finally emerged from Tom Randall's basement laboratory with lattice training and had been released into the world, where he quickly ticked 9B+ with his ascent of King Capella. King Capella has since been downgraded by Jakob Schubert because that's what Jakob Schubert does, but Bosi remains a super interesting prospect in both the outdoor and indoor worlds. He's shown some promise on the competition scene, and while his resume might not quite be there yet, I'm really excited to see what he does with some more experience under his belt. He's still only 22, which is crazy, and I expect we'll be seeing his name a lot in the upcoming years. Number 7 is Nalle Hukkataival. Nalle had a pretty quiet 2021, but there's still an argument to be made for him as the best boulderer in the world and one of the best rock climbers overall. With that being said, a quiet year by Nalle's standards still means he ticked multiple 8A and above boulders. Looking back a few years, his resume becomes even more impressive. On a per move basis, Burden of Dreams is probably the single hardest route in the world, and it stands today as one of only 2 V17s. Nalle has also dabbled in big wall climbing, as he spent a significant amount of time in Yosemite working on the Dawn Wall. It's hard to imagine a route less similar to Burden of Dreams, and although as far as I can tell they got turned away due to weather, this is a super cool project that I would love to see Hukkataival return to one day. Coming in at number 6, we have Seb Bouin. Seb Bouin had a absolutely crusher year in 2019, putting up the second most hard ascents in a 12-month period that we've ever seen by anyone except for Adam Ondra. He hasn't pushed the ante quite as much in recent years, but he remains one of the world's best pure sport climbers, and he's working on some big things. I feel like everyone's been waiting since 2019 for Seb to finally break through the 9B/plus barrier and climb a true 9B+, and it looks like he might be close. He's been spending a lot of time in Seus on bibliography, working it with Sean Bailey, and he says the route feels doable. More excitingly though, he has a local route called the DNA Project, which he says feels as if it's in the range of 9C. Now, maybe we've learned our lesson of people without a lot of 9B+ experience calling a route 9C, but I'm still super excited to see what Seb Bouin can do with his own king line. At number 5, we have Tomoa Narasaki. Now, how highly you place Tomoa on this list is probably going to be dependent on how much weight you put on indoor bouldering, but the fact remains that Narasaki is one of the best climbers in the world. His indoor achievements absolutely speak for themselves, and he's also started to build up a pretty impressive outdoor resume with some nice V14 ascents to his name, including a V14 flash, which very few people have ever done, and a V15 that I think only took him 3 tries to do. Tomoa has fallen a little bit because 2021 was kind of an off year for him. The Olympics didn't go as planned, the competitions earlier in the season didn't go as planned, and even his performance at Moscow was kind of underwhelming. I still think Tomoa is one of the most unique climbers we've ever seen, and at 25 he probably hasn't even hit his peak yet, so expect to see him back in the mix for the top 3 before long. Number 4 is Sean Bailey. Sean Bailey had probably the best 2021 of any climber out there. He claimed gold in the lead at Villars and Chamonix, and a gold in bouldering at Salt Lake City, which was about as well as the competition season could have gone for him, considering he didn't qualify for the Olympics. More importantly though, he became the 3rd person to climb bibliography, putting him on the short list of climbers who have ever sent 15C. This was a massive jump from Bailey's existing red point max of 15A, and it shows how much of a breakout year he had in 2021. He's shown that he can hang with the best at every type of climbing, and at 25, he's just about ready to start peaking. The future looks very bright for Sean Bailey. Number 3 is Daniel Woods. Given how good he's been for so long, it's absolutely insane to think that Daniel Woods would still be in the top 5 climbers alive in 2022, but here we are. If you want to talk bouldering resume, he arguably has the most impressive of anyone on the planet today, and maybe ever. At age 32, it seemed like he was done with the limelight, and then he came out with Return of the Sleepwalker, V17, and suddenly he was back in contention as one of the best climbers on the planet. Woods doesn't compete or do a whole lot of sport, although he's pretty good when he decides to do it, but he remains maybe the best boulderer ever, and if Sleepwalker is anything to go off of, he's somehow still getting better. Number 2 is a 3-way tie between Alex Megos, Jakob Schubert, and Stefano Gisolfi. Now, I know this looks like a cop-out, and that's because it's exactly what it is, but hear me out. I tried for weeks to figure out a way to rank these 3 against each other, and I just can't do it. On one hand, you have Jakob Schubert, who won the Olympic bronze with one of the most impressive leads I've ever seen, and finished up the year by sending both King Capella and La Capella, both 9B, in a day. He also repeated Chris Sharma's Espontas and Alasha, both of them graded at least 515. He's a terror in the lead world, downgrading everything, and I'd love to see him turn his attention towards more outdoor routes now that the Olympics are out of the way. Then there's Stefano Gisolfi, who repeated bibliography and now has the best 9B plus resume of anyone not named Adam Ondra. Stefano has really rounded out in the last few years with some super hard lead ascents in a variety of styles, and he has a couple of projects that look like they'll be pushing the 9B plus or 9C range once he gets them to go. Finally, there's Alex Megos. Alex had a disappointing Olympics, but he's still the only one of these 3 to have claimed a first ascent of a 9B plus route, which everyone kind of agrees is harder than seconding one. Sure, his king line got downgraded by Gisolfi, but he was super gracious about it, and he ended the year with an ascent of King Capella, a stiff 9B, which only took him a few days to do. I mean, looking at their resumes, how do you even rank these guys against each other? Jakob probably had the best 2021, Gisolfi arguably has the better resume, but based on the eye test, I would probably pick Megos on any given day to be the best climber out of them. I genuinely have no idea how to put any of these guys against the others, so I'm taking the easy way out and they all tie for second place. On any given day, any of these 3 could be the second best climber in the world. On their best day of the planet though, there's still someone to measure themselves against, and that is the consensus number 1 climber on the planet, Adam Ondra. Adam Ondra is so good that it's absurd. He's so good that even in a year where he didn't really push any boundaries, he's still the only climber on this list who I feel confident about. Like, there's one choice that I know no one is going to be mad at me for, and it's putting Adam Ondra as number 1 on this list. His resume speaks for itself. I don't even have to make the case here. He has the most hard sport climbs, the 5th most hard boulders, he climbed Belly Full of Bad Berries, he climbed the Dawn Wall, he's still the only climber to send 15D, he has more World Cup victories than you can stuff in a Montura belay parka. He is far and away the best climber alive today, and maybe the best ever. Alright guys, that's everything. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know in the comments, who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with? I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are. Happy New Year, I hope you all had a great holidays, and I will see you next time.